just made an agreement with the seller of Aldebaran, and last night we had a contest. It was kind of funny. We got all the kids involved. Teresa and I came with something like 11 different names to choose from to name our boat, and I wrote a little blurb to kind of illustrate what the reasoning was behind each of the names that we picked. And the list was, we couldn't come up with a boat name. Frankly, we went on the internet, we went to a boat yard, we looked at boats, and then we put those 11 names up for a contest. And we got Teresa's nieces and nephew, and I got all my 4 kids. And we put out the names, and it was the funniest thing. We had this really long chat. The largest consensus we came up with was the name Las cosas están malas, which in Spanish, in English it means things are not looking good. And it was a, one of my daughters called it Dad's motto, which is me saying things are not looking good. Whenever anyone asks for money, well, things are not looking good. Whenever any one of their moms asks for a raise or whatever, well, things are not looking good. And eventually it came down to, well, even though things aren't looking good, Dad found the money for a sailboat. But anyway, Teresa and I vetoed it, or I vetoed it, because it's going to be really difficult to call the Coast Guard an emergency to say, things aren't looking good. And another Coast Guard fail would have been Mayday. So imagine, Mayday, 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 this is Mayday, Mayday. These were the choices that we kind of played with. Aguas de Março in Portuguese, as a song by Tom Jobim, which I love. It was my first exposure to bossa and Brazilian music when I was a kid, and I just happened to love the name. You know, we're buying the boat in the month of March. It's a water, and it's kind of like a rite of spring song, which I thought was really nice. I got one vote on that from my daughter Lilia, who says that this was one of her favorite songs as well. The other option was Isleña, which means girl of the islands, or island girl. And both, Teresa and I are from islands. She grew up in Puerto Rico, but she's originally from Cuba. Akathisia was my original favorite. Akathisia, Akathisia. It's a medical term, restless leg syndrome. And the more precise term is really it's a psychiatric, neuropsychiatric condition where people cannot stop shaking, and it could be a side effect of medications used for psychosis. But the meaning that I was thinking of was restlessness, and this is a restlessness, wanting to move from port to port, wanting to sail on, wanting to, kind of the story of my life. I've always been moving around. So we had a best man at my wedding, Raleigh, made a joke about how everywhere we went to when we met in Miami, I would say, oh, I used to live there. Oh, I used to live there. Oh, I used to have a house there. Oh, I used to, and that was part of a running joke with us that, oh, Freddie used to live there. So Akathisia kind of grabs that essence. I think we're both attracted to the southwest of the United States, the desert cultures. And when I met Teresa had lived in Arizona, and all of her little knickknacks around the house are some kind of a Native American culture. So she has rugs and she has pottery and all these different things pointed to the southwest. And we've made several trips out to the southwest. We actually had the opportunity to go to visit the area where she used to own a house with a former husband, and drove by the property, and lo and behold, the place was up for sale. And it is just an amazing 5-acre lot in northern Scottsdale. I think that's where it is. And it's just, desert everything. But anyway, we bought this house in Fort Myers, which to me was like, oh, what a beautiful property. It's got cacti all over. And as I came closer and we saw the doorbell, it had the little cocopelli, or cocopelli, whatever, cocopelli, on the ringer, the button that you ring the alarm for the house is a cocopelli, and there's another one inside. And I think we both, fell for the place, and we started gathering stuff that was from the southwest. we painted it in these southwestern colors, whatever we did, and we brought all her stuff and my stuff, and there's another tangent. I'm going another little tangent here, but my daughter Lilia hates lizards. She has a phobia. She has a lizard phobia, and we ended up. I had lizards, and Teresa had lizards, and we named the place Casa de las Lagartijas, which means the House of Lizards. Kind of as a joke on Lilia, but also because we did have all of these little, lizard motifs. And I even thought of naming the boat Lagartijas, or Lagartijas, female for lizards. But anyway, we didn't go there. And the name that I proposed, and Teresa, actually this is Teresa's idea, was Cocopelli. But in the end, we didn't have like a. I guess we didn't love it, man. Another song by Tom Jobim was Vagamente, which means lazily. And Vagamente is just not rushing into things. It's also, sailing. You just, you set your sails, as long as you've checked the weather, and you lay back, and you're not in a rush because you're not going anywhere fast. So Vagamente is also that concept of just letting go, settling into things, slowly sailing. The next one was Kythnos, and Kythnos is a Greek island in the Cyclades. And when Teresa and I met, one of the things, she was pushing 50, and she says that she had all her life wanted to have her 50th with a big bang. And at the time we met, I was between stages of life. So I was dirt broke, I had no money. Teresa says, I don't know where this relationship is going to end up as we met, but I'm bringing you for my 50th birthday. And by the way, I'm arranging to sail a catamaran on the Greek islands with the captain. So I was like, wow, okay, I'm in. And Kythnos was our first or possibly second port of call on that trip. We had a phenomenal time with her family. Our best man and maid of honor for our wedding, who introduced us originally and who came on the trip. So there were a lot of links to that. So we thought Kythnos, Greek island, first port of call on our first sail. Got one vote on that. The next one was Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice. I'm not going to say it 3 times for obvious reasons, but it is a star used for celestial navigation, and it's a movie that everybody loves. I don't know anyone who didn't love that movie. I got 0 votes on it. Being from Puerto Rico and Cuba for her, but also grew up in Puerto Rico, we thought of something with the Taino culture. Tainos were the nicer Indian or native inhabitants of the Caribbean islands. They were pretty much eaten up alive by the Caribs, who were a nastier group of Indians. Those guys were in some of the islands, and when the first Europeans sailed, they ran into the Tainos, who they exchanged, they traded and whatnot. And then on a different island, they ran into the Caribs, after which the Caribbean basin is named. And the Caribs ended up eating some of they killed some of the Spaniards and ate them. So we were not going to name it Carib, but Taino culture. So the name that came from that we found on Wikipedia of all places was Huracan, and it's spelled with a J, Juracan, and the A with an accent in Spanish, Huracan. But Huracan is the Taino culture evil god of the winds. So now we're talking about naming a sailboat after an evil god of the winds, and I got 0 votes on that. And by the way, Huracan, for those who speak English, is the original or the origin for the word hurricane. The benevolent one was Yukiyu, which was, I think it was a god for the Tainos, the god's name for who used to reside on this mountain on the island of Puerto Rico. And when the Spaniards tried to communicate with them, Yukiyu became Yunque, or the Spanish thought that it sounded like Yunque, and Yunque is an anvil. And that mountain on the eastern Sierra of Puerto Rico is was named El Yunque for the Spanish because it kind of, if you push it, it looks like an anvil. But for the Taino, it must have meant the benevolent God resides. El Yunque was the one that protected the natives from the evil hurricanes. It was a mountain that provided shelter, would break up the winds, and we've all heard how these mountain tops break down hurricanes. They break the shear, they shear the winds. So that was the good God. Anyway, I got 0 votes on that. So that's the end of that. We thought of something that would be self-sustaining, something that would, you know, be away from land for a long time, and we thought about seabirds. Albatross kind of was the I guess the one that comes to mind, the most common for landlubbers. And albatross is, oh, that's great, it's a great name, and the boat can sail on, and albatross can stay away from land for a very long time, unsupported by land for long periods of time. This boat has a wind generator and has solar panels, has a water maker. It's comfortable enough. It has tons of storage space. So we figured we could we could go on a passage and spend some time away from land. I have all these dreams of, as I guess most men do, of sailing away and being self-supporting for long periods of time. Albatross got 1 weak vote. And then the last one on the list was pelagic, meaning it lives away, it's unsupported by land. I think the actual term is more of a stratum of a layer of the sea. You know, there's species of sea life that live on certain strata. Anyway, my understanding of pelagic was more of independent of land. So that was the list. There were others that we talked about, the Greek gods of the winds, Notos or the Notai, and Zephyrus was the west, which was supposed to be a nice one. Euros was the east wind, which where we live in these latitudes we have the northeast trade winds. Euros has a negative connotation. Borea is the evil god of the north winds. We have no relation to that. We don't think we want to go there. And overall Venti, meaning I think the Venti was the southern. So anyway, after not being able to come up with anything, we agreed to leave the boat's name as it is. And I guess, again, marine folklore has it that changing a boat's name may be bad luck. We don't believe in that sort of thing, but it ended up remaining Aldebaran. And Aldebaran is a star used for celestial navigation, the constellation Taurus. And Aldebaran is the eye of the bull, and it's a red eye. And after we said, okay, we'll keep the name, I went out with my little sky constellation finder on my phone app, and lo and behold, there it was. I couldn't believe it. It was red. I saw it. It was like, oh my God, it is red. And it's a rather large, I guess, dying star. So it's got that red color. It's not as big as some of the others, but still, I was able to find it, and I thought it's going to be silly if anyone ever asks me, why did you name it Aldebaran? And I say, oh, it's a navigation star, but I don't know where it is, and I don't know where it looks like. So I went out. I can recognize Orion's belt easily. I've been doing that for years. Oh, there it is, and it moves, from east to west. And there it was. I found Aldebaran immediately. So I said, okay, I'm good with that. It's safe. I think we can learn more about it as we go. So we ended up leaving the name Aldebaran. So Aldebaran it is. I sent all of the kids on the chat the decision, big drum roll and a lot of ado, and they were really funny. They sent a lot of stuff back and all like, please, please, come on. And in the end, they were all extremely disappointed that none of their suggestions. I had 0 votes for Aldebaran, but the premise was that any of the names that anyone agreed or suggested could be vetoed by the supernumerary, or rather the super voters, which were Teresa and I. So it ended up being Aldebaran. So there it is. We have a name.